Let's talk toys. Let's talk toys.
Let's talk toys. The 1980s were a watershed moment for the toy industry. It marked the birth of the modern action figure market as we know it today. More than just a wave of plastic heroes here and there, the 80s action figure boom was a perfect storm of creativity, corporate strategy, pop culture evolution, and changes in media law. It wasn't just a trend, it was a revolution. There was one rule change that changed everything though. In 1984, a major policy shift by the FCC, the Federal Communications Commission in the US, dramatically altered children's programming. For the first time ever, it became legal to create cartoons explicitly to sell toys, and this opened the floodgates for a new business model: entertainment-driven toy lines. Instead of just creating toys and hoping that they sold, companies developed characters and stories first and then designed the toys around them, or vice versa. The result? A new genre of cartoon, the 30-minute toy commercial. He-Man and the Masters of the Universe in 1983 became the template. It was a cartoon created after the toy line, designed to market directly to kids on a massive scale. This approach was repeated by the likes of Transformers, G.I. Joe, Thundercats, Mask, Silverhawks, the list goes on. The birth of the iconic toy lines. Dozens of now legendary franchises got their start or hit their stride in the 1980s. Here are some of the heavy hitters in my opinion. G.I. Joe, a real American hero in 1982, revamped from the 12-inch military dolls of the 60s into a 3 3/4-inch scale. They introduced a rich universe of characters, each with unique file cards, vehicles, playsets, and even a comic book series enhanced the lore. Masters of the Universe in 1982, launched by Mattel, it combined barbarian fantasy with sci-fi elements. He-Man and Skeletor, Castle Grayskull, these all became household names. It included one of the first major cartoons built around a toy line. Transformers in 1984, imported from Japanese toy lines, they were rebranded by Hasbro, and as a result, Optimus Prime, Megatron, others all became global icons. The accompanying cartoon and Marvel comic book tie-in helped create a deep backstory to these characters. Star Wars by Kenner was late 70s into early 80s, and though it began in 1977, Star Wars figures absolutely dominated the early 80s sales. Kenner's 3 3/4-inch became the industry standard, allowing for affordable figures and larger vehicles and playsets. Figures from The Empire Strikes Back and Return of the Jedi flooded shelves. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles in 1988 started as a gritty indie comic book, and it became a kid-friendly toy and cartoon juggernaut. Each turtle had its own weapons, its own personality, colours. The toy line actually ran strong well into the early 90s and beyond. There was then multi-platform storytelling and brand building. What really set the 80s apart was the brand synergy. Kids weren't just watching or playing, they were immersed in entire universes. Cartoons made the characters come alive on a daily basis. Comics provided expanded lore and darker storytelling at times. Video games allowed kids to control their heroes in different scenarios. Merchandise such as pajamas, lunchboxes, bed sheets, all of these things meant that characters were then essentially everywhere. This created a deep emotional connection between the kids and their toys, a model that persists today. There was also innovation in design and packaging at the time. The unique selling points of the 1980 figures included things like individual bios, so like G.I. Joe's had the card bios. There was spring-loaded features, there was swappable accessories, there was glow-in-the-dark paint, damage effects, vehicles, playsets. All of these things expanded the world and the figures. There was also huge character variety. Lines offered dozens, even hundreds of different characters, making collective essentially addictive. But the packaging also told a story, so card backs, like I said, often featured checklists, artwork and lore, encouraging repeat purchases and trades between friends. There was the economic and cultural impact, so the toy industry skyrocketed in the 1980s, with action figures representing a multi-billion-dollar market by the mid-decade. These toys helped define childhoods for millions, and they shaped the media landscape that we know today. licensing and merchandising became core business models for entertainment companies. So my final thought on it is its legacy. It's a legacy that still lives on. The 1980s action figure boom set the blueprint for modern toy marketing. Today's major lines like Marvel Legends, Black Series, NECA, Super 7 often reference or directly remake 1980s figures. Nostalgia-driven collection fuels conventions, YouTube channels, resale markets, conventions. The children of the 80s are now the adult collectors, often buying for both themselves and for their kids. I suppose my question here is that once this kind of nostalgic part has shifted, what's next? Will action figure collecting be a thing of the past? Will chasing nostalgia be a thing of the past? We are definitely living in the golden age of this 80s nostalgia now, but where does that go? Let me know in the comments what your favourite toy lines of the 80s were and what toy lines we haven't had revisited that perhaps you would like to see revisited. And of course, check out my channel for other videos on some of my favourite toy lines of the 80s and early 90s. Thanks for watching.